Big head, big head. Yes, Dave's head is big and round,
Thank you,
but
Jack.
not as big and round as Jack's bald head. Bald head. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anything in between, welcome back to another episode of The Rambling Rabbit. Today, we are going to be talking about honesty in friendships and relationships. How important is it? So, I'm going to start by asking my good friend David. David, how important is honesty in relationships and friendships?
Well,
And
Jack, as
yeah,
we discovered today, it's pretty fucking important. Yeah, where do we even begin with that? I feel like no friendship can exist without a foundation of trust. Inevitably, really, isn't it? Without that sort of open and unfiltered communication between you and your friends, I find it hard to fully take someone in if I'm not being 100% honest with them. And I think as you get older, that definitely becomes more apparent.
yeah,
Um, there's definitely been times where I've held more back depending on the individual. And I think that can be directly correlated with how much I consider them a friend, how much I've integrated this individual into my life. So I think ultimately how much of ourselves we put out there, to certain individuals, and how much we value them as friends directly correlates to that into some ways. It directly correlates into how much we want to be honest with them. And I think, obviously, depending on the kind of individual, that might not hold true. Some people are very reserved and obviously aren't as honest with people they
mhm,
would consider their close friends. But I think fundamentally, it is important to keep that open communication, that sense of oneness, almost like just bringing your friends into the fold, right? It really helps you feel connected, I think, when you're not holding anything back from people, when you can just absolutely tell them exactly how you feel. Um,
yeah. I
yeah.
think, from my perspective and from what you've just said, I think there's to add. I think I would say there's levels to it,
Mm,
and I think it would be fair to say there's a progression to it as well.
absolutely.
I don't think very often when we first meet someone, for example, we're going to be brutally honest about everything.
Mm,
I use the term brutally honest because I think that what I mean by brutally honest is just being genuinely honest about a situation.
yeah.
And I think you do have to be careful how you word things,
Yeah,
definitely,
absolutely.
because you don't want to kind of do it in a distasteful way when there's
Mm,
an issue and then potentially cause to escalate something that doesn't need to escalate in a negative way. But I think at the same time, if you can deliver something in a correct way to somebody that you know they can understand and that enables them to either reflect on their behaviors or reflect on your own behaviors, that it can really be the key to taking the relationship or the friendship to like the next level and strengthening it. I think that when
absolutely.
we are able to be brutally honest in a constructive way, that it can really strengthen things.
Yeah. Do you think it's a bit of a chicken and the egg kind of situation? Would you say that honesty in friendship is what leads to greater friendship? Or do you think that by developing great friendships leads to more honesty? Do you
I
think, yeah,
think
which way around do you think that normally comes? Because I feel like
I
it can be
think
both ways sometimes, right? Depending on the
I think that
individuals.
I think that it's in going through things together
Yeah.
in life in general that
Mm,
that strengthens and develops things. But I would say that the honesty is a big part of that.
yeah.
What did you repeat what you said again about
Yeah.
the way round that
Yeah.
you worded
So,
it?
I think for us, let's take our friendship as an example. I think that
Mm,
it's been the case that we've developed our friendship and our language and how we interact with each other that has then followed through to that, right?
yeah.
Um, we don't speak to each other, and just as we really hashed out today, we don't really speak to each other with the directness and clarity as we may have done, say, 4 years ago. I mean, we definitely
No,
don't, right?
definitely not. No.
Right? Yeah.
Even
So,
I would even say that
yeah.
even our banter has like leveled up in terms of like
Yeah.
there's things that I say to you now that I would
Mm,
have never have said like going back 3 years. And
yeah.
and in truth, the reasons that I wouldn't have said that going back 3 years is because prior in the past, I've found you sometimes to be, or perhaps a little bit delicate with things. So I wouldn't know if, like, there was an uncertainty with me. Like, I wouldn't just
Yeah.
have a certain level of banter with you because the thought, again, this is me being thoughtful as well. I wouldn't have wanted to take the banter to a level that you weren't comfortable with and potentially offend you.
Yeah.
But then I feel also like, just to flip it to the other way, that over time now we've got quite, like, I wouldn't say harsh banter, it's just lad banter. You know, lad banter is harsh, right? You're just cracking all kinds of inappropriate jokes. I'm not going to say them over YouTube because it's just not the platform, right? But any dude watching this knows what lad banter is like and knows what lad jokes are like, you know? We take it to extremes. But I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with strengthening a male, like, friendship. Like, the harsher the banter, the stronger the friendship gets, if that makes sense.
There definitely is a correlation between how comfortable you get with someone and the things that you're willing to say to them, and where you hold them in your heart, right? I mean, there's a very, like, despite our banter being, honestly, don't lie to the people, Jack. Our banter is fucking crass and shocking. It is bad.
It would tear like, if you said it to someone you not known too long, it would tear them apart. Mate, and you would, you'd lose jobs and shit over it.
Our banter has seen less structure now than it ever has, just because we're willing to say practically anything to each other.
It's a bit like, where's the boundary, and we're constantly like testing it and trying to push it further.
Yeah, we're like,
the interesting thing about that is it's actually been proven in, like, let's say wartime situations, that people become, like, very more and more willing to joke about such more serious life topics like death and things like that.
Yeah.
But in doing so, and this is between units of soldiers that I'm talking about specifically, it strengthens those those connections and those friendships, because there's something that we find in humor that enables us to deal with stuff, deal with difficult situations. I've definitely read something on that before I found it really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the essence of dark humor, really, isn't it? It's about taking something that's just absolutely abysmal and making it less, and making it more palatable in a way that is just, it just takes that edge off it, right? It just takes that sort of, that eeriness, that sort of bleakness. I mean, and it's not to say that it, say, for instance, certain topics that would be, I don't know, pretty taboo. It just takes them, and it just doesn't necessarily make them acceptable or any more. You know, I don't know how to really describe it. It doesn't make them acceptable as much as it just makes fun of them directly, right?
Do you think there's a limit to that? So this is something I find interesting. Okay. So I'm in my head, like, if you're gonna do dark humor, then anything's on the table. Okay. So for example, if you're a comedian and you're gonna do really dark humor, then it's all got to be on the table. Everything's got to be able to be discussed, right? But you see this. I've seen a few videos, in fact, it'd be interesting to react to on comedy shows where it's a comedian and they're doing dark humor, but then all of a sudden someone gets offended, and it's like, it's kind of weird to me, because they'll tell a dark joke that could easily offend multiple different people, but everyone's cool with it. But then they'll tell another one, and one person decides, nah, that's like, there's a limit, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, is there a limit, or should it be that if you're doing dark humor, it's dark humor, anything's on the table?
I think it's contextual. I think it depends. It's, read the room. Like, how is it a joke? Are you like, is this a tasteful joke? Have you made this actually humorous, or is this just you, sort of, are you a closeted fucking Nazi? Like, there's levels to this, you know what I mean? Like, there is levels to this, but I think if you are actually a comic trying to make actual jokes, there should be no limit, because who is there to say there is a limit? Who is there to put these boundaries on speech, right? Who is there to say that you can't make fun of something? Because that's ultimately what comedy is. It's just taking a subject and, having a little piss on it, really, isn't it? It's like, just
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
absolutely ridiculing it.
I have to be careful with my humor, especially
Mm.
if I'm going to get accused of being a neo-Nazi because I've already kind of got the look going
I
on. So
mean,
I'm really treading on thin ice if I go down those avenues, you know.
you know, it's
I mean, I'm not anyone watching, but if you've ever watched American History X, I've
yeah.
kind of got that. I kind of got that look.
I mean, the glasses
It's
help you out, mate. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, it's not my fault I went bald. I should take the glasses off.
Yeah, get the
Yeah,
glasses back on, mate. People will say
yeah.
stuff in the comments.
Before I get tempted to do a salute. Yeah,
Oh,
jeez.
fuck's
That was a
sake.
joke, chat. That was a dark joke. It's okay.
Oh, but that's
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like
there we
even
go.
then, this is the contextual thing that I was talking about. You felt very obligated just now to reaffirm the fact that that was in fact a joke.
Yeah.
Whereas I
Shouldn't
think
have needed to,
you
really.
shouldn't, and I think that's a problem,
Yeah.
right? Isn't it? It's a lot of
Yeah.
lot of the times you have to almost like cover your ass like you're a goddamn solicitor when it's clearly implied that what we're talking about right now in this podcast is just pure humor, right? It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
it
And
should just be inferred, right? It should just be interpreted as such.
I think it's the same reason that people have to then, at the start of, let's say, in the information section of this podcast, like I noticed the other day, actually, that you'd put, this podcast is just our opinions. We're not we're not mental health professionals and stuff
Yeah.
like that. The same reason that people would put, this is all for comedic purposes. They don't necessarily express our true views. And it's like people do that because they have to cover their backs. They have
It's
to
true.
almost say it now in case they, I don't know, somebody reports them or whatever happens. I don't know that process. I hope I never have to deal with anything like that, to be honest, because I think it would just be an extremely stressful thing, especially if you are genuinely just someone that is trying to put out comedic content.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you've, I don't know, potentially got a bloody court case or something because of something you've said. It's just kind of scary to think about.
It really is, mate. And I think the problem is as well with that is that every time you, like, we put ourselves on the internet, and we have done for quite some time, for many years. And I think when you literally talk about anything, you risk offending numerous groups, no matter what you're talking about. Even these pretty non-political, podcasts that we do, where our goal is purely to just try and provide some value from the conversations that we've been having for years, shoot them, and hope that a third party, obviously our viewers, the people watching, can actually get something out of them. Like, there is nothing but good intentions
to it in some way.
Yeah, but we also risk potentially offending many people in the process because of the misinterpretation that could come about from that, which is terrifying in this modern world.
I guess also that is just life. Like you're not going to go through life without offending some people. Like, it's going to happen. I was going to say, just to bring it back in terms of on the friendship front. I guess one other thing that I would add is that, in life we're always fluctuating. So there might be times where, for example, if you made a joke with your friend that would normally be okay, but they might be having a really shitty week.
Yeah.
There's definitely been times in my life where that's happened. So, like, I've got a friend that I've got good banter with, but then they're having a bit of a bad week, and I make a joke, and maybe they take it the wrong way because they're just feeling maybe a bit vulnerable, a bit going for a bit of a rough time.
Yeah.
That's definitely happened before. And I think, but again, that's where you kind of hopefully pick up on that, and then as a friend you kind of say, okay, I can see that they're probably having a bad week, so you might apologize, you might talk it through, you might use it as an opportunity even to say, oh, sorry dude, I wouldn't have said that if blah blah blah, are you doing okay? And sometimes that can spring up again conversations that grow the friendship, because you're realizing through your little joke that you've made that actually they're not ready for that kind of joke today, they're having a bit of a bad time. It gives you a chance to then talk.
Well, I think that's the important part, is that everyone just takes responsibility, right? It's you're obviously responsible for what you say, and they're responsible for how they respond, right? Like, you especially in this technological era, we can't be 100% sure how anyone's going to receive digital media, across, we don't have facial expressions at all times. We can't necessarily gauge that at all times. So
we don't know we don't know what kind of audience might be watching. There might be someone that's like, I don't know, let's just throw out an example, highly religious, and we might say something that is, just doesn't sit well with them at all because of their religious beliefs. But then I guess that's where I would come to the point of, you've got, literally thousands of other people you could be watching. Just click off the fucking video if you don't like something that you hear. To me, it is that simple. If I see something I don't agree with it, or it really offends me for whatever reason, I just click off the video and go and watch something else or go about my life. But then some people feel the need. This goes into a completely separate conversation. Some people feel the need on the internet and live their lives on the internet, and they have to have, you know, their opinions and stuff. I can't even begin to imagine how many people get on online arguments with each other. You know, some people probably live their lives to have debates online.
It's a bit of a phenomenon, actually, mate. And I was looking, you know what's funny? I was actually looking into this not too long ago, and people have done videos on YouTube about this very topic. And it seems that there is just this wave, and it seems to have come about just because of how chronically online people are now, where we have this, well, a lot of people have this main character syndrome in which they will take things that aren't even targeted towards them and inject themselves in that like it should be about them, right? Into some ways.
Them,
like it really does span quite a wide sort of it spans all genres of media as well. Like you can be watching some you know, man making a pastry, and you will find people that will somehow take offense to that and make it about them. It's an incredible thing, man. It's truly baffling.
I guess it only really takes for the content that you're watching to be something that you're personally passionate about. And then it's like, I mean, I've had it over. I mean, you know, I love The Last of Us, the video game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, The Last of Us 2 came out as a big controversy about like Joel and, you know, Joel dying and how he died and blah, blah, blah. And just loads of stuff. And I've found myself many times like scrolling through the comments and like wanting to jump on and kind of have a debate with people. Very rarely I will, unless I can see that person is someone who is able to have an adult conversation. Like I'm not going to very much try and avoid arguing with people over the internet. But I can see how people do get drawn into it. And then if you combine that with, if they're not very social people and they are on the computer all the time, you can see how they get into that loop. You know, they're getting some kind of dopamine out of it, probably from engaging in this stuff. Is it healthy dopamine? Is there such thing as healthy dopamine?
I would say dopamine is. I mean, dopamine is just dopamine, right? It just depends how you get it, right? So, I mean, so I guess there is there's healthy levels of dopamine. I would say there's easily accessible dopamine, and then there's, you know, this is a whole other conversation in itself, really, isn't it? That's a whole thing. Yeah.
I feel I'm gonna say now, I feel like we've covered the whole friendship and I've forgotten even what we were talking about.
I mean, that's the rambling segment of the name, isn't it? Really, Jack?
That's the whole point.
The whole point, man.
We can't even feel bad about rambling because we're called the Rambling Rabbits.
Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
What I was going to
say is, I feel like we've covered the topic pretty well. I'm happy to wrap it up there if you are.
The only thing I would say is that, friendships take time. You know.
Yeah.
They're formed over many years. Sometimes being too honest too quickly can also be a bit of a detriment in itself, you know? I've had people literally spill their entire life story within the space of an hour. And
that's a difficult one.
Yeah. And
I've experienced that recently, actually. And not even just, when I say life story, I mean graphic stuff that's happened to them in their life.
Same. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I kind of froze up there. I didn't know really how to phrase that, but the opposite as well is also true. There is a balance, just like everything, like we always say, pretty much at the end of most podcasts, everything is a balance. You know, there is, you know, understanding exactly what information is appropriate when, and, you know, just letting, you know, the friendship grow, and obviously the trust you have in that individual grow with it, and what you share with them, and just integrating into each other's lives, because that's essentially what it is. I think these two things elevate together. You know,
authentic growth,
man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Promoting authentic growth.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to say anyway. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. If you've got any thoughts, please do leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you really enjoyed the video, you might want to subscribe. You might not. We don't know. We don't know who's watching. We don't know, Dave. It's a mystery. But hopefully we'll see you all again soon. We will see you all again soon. Take care. Peace.